Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode on running context, we're going to just focus on this up plank behaviour. So you may have reached this stage and you may have found that you're having no issues here. Excellent. I really hope that's what's going on. In truth, I don't tend to have too many issues with my dogs at this stage. The only problem maybe being is they get so much momentum going up as they might start to miss their dog walk contact at the end, but then usually that evens itself out as we train. However, you can have problems, and I think it's important that we look at this and say, what can we do if we need to overcome problems? One of the problems I think might crop up with Magpie, might not. It was something that did come up with Swift, but it came up later on in our agility career when we were actually competing, so it didn't initially come up when training. And that is when the dog thinks that this plank is actually the seesaw. Since we've had the heights adjusted on the dog walk's been lowered. This plank is now the identical angle to the seesaw plank, and so many dogs I have seen since that change, especially beginner dogs, really find it hard to tell the difference, and they worry. If they've done the seesaw first in a course, then they come to the dog walk, they think this is the seesaw again. You can see them hesitate as they go up. Typically we won't see it in training. It tends to be more something that comes up in competition when they've got that extra momentum going. It's worse if the dog has a fear of the seesaw or has accidentally flown off the seesaw, not realising it isn't the dog walk. It's one of those things that I actually start to train my seesaw and dog walk in tandem. Used to train your dog walk first, then you'd go and train your seesaw. You'd say, get this right first, then we'll do the seesaw. But in actual fact, I now find, I found certainly with Magpie as well, that it's actually important to not only train them in tandem, but to actually focus on the seesaw as much as anything, to enable them, if they've got a good understanding of the seesaw, they should be less fearful of the dog walk. So I'll talk about that more in another video, how I train in tandem. However, what do you do if you've got a situation where your dog is becoming nervous of the dog walk, up plank, and you need to correct this? Aside from the fact you're going to have to work on your seesaw to build confidence in the seesaw, and that will naturally bring confidence back into your dog walk. If you haven't got direct access to a seesaw but you have got a dog walk, you may want to be working on this. Can I do something and then when I see a seesaw, work with a seesaw later? Yes, you can. First off, make sure that your cues for a seesaw and a dog walk are very different. So as I said before, my cues for a dog walk are run, go. My cues for my seesaw are see, and bang. Bang is a very specific cue. Bang means lay down and hold that position. The seesaw is lowering. That was probably the key cue that helped Swift to understand and have confidence on her seesaw and stopped her being afraid of the dog walk. Because I had problems where she became so fearful of the seesaw that if she saw the dog walk, I can't do dog walks. I think it might be a seesaw, I won't do it. So that's step number one. Make sure those cues are so different and obvious, and I also recommend having a cue to tell your dog to slow down and stop at the end of the seesaw, or tell them at least that it's going to bang. That helps enormously. So the different the cues will help them to get that understanding. Secondly, training in tandem. So I always try and do, with Magpie, I'm trying to do a little bit on the seesaw. She doesn't do a full seesaw, but do a little bit on the seesaw, then on the dog walk, to get that understanding. They're two different items, and you know, trying to help again with confidence. But then let's also work on the up plank, and what can we do here? So if your dog is being a bit worried about the up plank, and I should also note that a lot of dog walks are actually quite bouncy, and that can itself throw them off. Obviously we did a lot of work on their running up and down it when they were on the end there, but we may need to proof the going up instead of just playing around. So what can we do? I have set up my treat and train here on the top, and what I'm going to be asking Swift to do is I just want her to run up to the treat and train. Now notice I've set it up well back from this end. If I set it up here, she would actually have to stop on the up plank. I want her to have actually gone over the up plank. This is one of the bits where it's actually quite wobbly, because this is a join, so this is where there can be a rattly noise. I want her to be going over that and going past that. If I just take her up to this end, it actually starts to look like a seesaw again, because that's what we do with a seesaw. We get them to come up. And I wouldn't be surprised if I did that often enough, she would actually probably come up and lay down as her seesaw behaviour. I don't want that because this is a moving obstacle. Sorry, she's going to do a moving motion of it. I want her to be coming up and past. This is far enough for her. However, if you've got a bigger dog, you might want to push it further back because a bigger dog isn't going to fit in here. That's fine enough for her. Okay, Swift, so I'm going to start here a little bit back from the dog walk. So she's got a bit of momentum, sit. Start her in a sit. The sit is reducing her momentum again. And I'm going to go, run! Yay! Now, she actually has never done that before. Good girl. But you can see she got up there and she drove up there. In actual fact, if you were having any issues with your dog driving up a dog walk, that is something you could do without having to worry about your contact behaviour. I turned her around and asked her to come down. You could also lift your dog off. It doesn't bother me asking them to turn around and come down because I wouldn't expect that to happen once they have the whole behaviour put together. But if you think your dog might do that, then you might want to lift them off. Okay, Swift, run! Get it! So that's just a simple way, good girl, come back, of building confidence to drive up. What about this? Now, this is a hard one for me to demonstrate because I haven't got a dog that misses its up contact. Even when I'm ramming here, run! Swift gets it. She might be high, but she gets it. But what happens, good girl, if you've got a dog that's missing that? What I would suggest you do is clicker train it. I don't do a lot of clicker training, but we're on agility equipment. I do it in other ways. But what I would suggest you do is I would have your dog here and I would set up, I'd be prepared to reward them here. And all I want to do is I'd ask the dog to come, and if they get their feet there, I reward there with a click. They're going to be slow at first. Why I don't want to be placing too much reward or allure there or putting my manners minder that they can run to is because of the angle. And I want them to be running through her. But what I can do is I can set them up, and if you set them up from a sit, they might be slightly better, but I can set them up, just have them run here, click, and then I can reward where I want to. So I could either reward here, good girl, go, or up there. You could also do this with the manners minder there. The only thing is, I think that if you have a dog that leaps and they're trying to aim for the manners minder, you might find that they will continue that leaping behaviour, have a lot of failures. So I would certainly start by just having them run, and if they hit here, click, reward. You don't want to do that too much because you're going to be slowing them down because they're going to come and expect the reward. But what we're trying to do is reinforce that you hit here, and no matter where you come from, you hit here. And in some dogs, they will have to actually slow themselves to be able to hit that. Mostly this all comes together quite straightforward once you get going a bit. And, you know, the dogs do learn and get there. It's not one of those things that's too bad. But you may find that the clicker training, that will just help to reinforce the behaviour that I get here, and then I carry on. And of course, when you are training, you will always concentrate on making sure that the dog gets the up contact, because they're down, as well as the down contact. Once your dog is getting that successfully, then of course we can put the manners minder in, because then of course the manners minder is actually a distraction. It's building arousal. So if the dog can get the dog can get the up contact with the manners minder there, or a toy there, or something it really wants to, then we know we're going to have success in competition. It's all about that proofing, getting it right, good girl, and going from there. Now, at this stage with the down plank, you can see I'm starting her off fairly close in a sit. Again, I am not going to be sticking at this level too long. In the past I did. In the past I spent far too long with her close, because for me it was a way of getting success. Because she was, and Sparrow especially, because they were slower from this stand, I knew they were going to be slower over, and I knew I was going to get a hit. And in my head I was thinking, this is helping my training, I'm making sure they're getting success. But I wasn't, because I wasn't teaching them how to get that hit at a momentum, with momentum. So don't hover at this level very long. Again, as soon as you're getting success, move back, move back. Start the dog off, just get far and far back. Start the dog off in a sit, yes, but make sure they've got a distance so they're actually starting to stride. And then we're starting to build into an actual contact behaviour. When you've got your dog, so they're getting back to what, 3 meters or more back, and then they're running up and going there. Now we're starting to get a proper dog walk behaviour. Good girl. One more sit, and now we're going to be looking at putting this into a sequence. Run! She said, what, Dad? Because Mum was standing in a weird way. Again, I quite like that. I'm going to ask her to do it. Swift. This time I'm going to ask her to do it and I'm going to face the wrong way, just because I've seen something that actually confused her. Sit. And I actually think this would be a good proofing. Run! Good girl. Because I'm facing the wrong way. So you see how suddenly you can come across these little things in your training and go, oh, hang on, I'll just have a go proofing that. Anyway, that's your up plank. Play with your up plank. That sounded ruder than I thought it was going to sound, but play with your up plank. See how you get on. And once you've got this, now it's exciting because we can start putting dog walk in a sequence. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, you might subscribe to the YouTube channel and you can click on notifications by pressing the bell icon and then you'll know when new videos are coming out. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.